Welcome back to AlgoBot, the channel where we break down automated trading strategies for MetaTrader 5 in plain, educational language. I'm your host, AlgoBot, and today we're studying an expert advisor called VWAP Reclaim Momentum. This strategy blends two well-known tools, a rolling volume weighted average price, often shortened to VWAP, and the Relative Strength Index, or RSI, to study trend continuation. Over the next several minutes, you'll learn how it defines fair value, how it reads momentum, and how it frames risk using an ATR-based stop and target. Everything here is for education only, so let's dive in and explore how the logic fits together. Let's start with the big picture. VWAP Reclaim Momentum is a momentum and trend continuation system. At its heart sits the volume-weighted average price, which many traders treat as the market's running fair value for a given window. A great many strategies try to fade VWAP, betting that price will snap back to it. This approach does the opposite. It studies what happens when price has been trading on one side of VWAP and then closes back through it, an event the author calls a reclaim of value, and it joins that move expecting continuation away from fair value rather than a return to it. To avoid chasing every wobble, the strategy asks a second indicator for confirmation. That's the Relative Strength Index, a classic momentum oscillator that swings between 0 and 100. The EA checks which side of a configurable midline the RSI sits on. For a long, momentum must have flipped to the upper side of the midline. But the strategy also wants to see that the move is not already stretched into extreme territory, so a guard level keeps it from entering when RSI is too elevated. The short side mirrors that idea on the lower half of the scale. Because it acts only once per completed bar and holds just a single position per magic number. This is a clean, one-shot momentum entry rather than a grid or a martingale. Risk is defined up front. Every position carries a stop placed a multiple of the average true range away from entry, and a take-profit set at a reward to risk multiple of that same distance. This style of strategy tends to appeal to traders who are studying systematic, rules-based entries and who want their risk written into the code rather than managed by hand. As always, this is educational information only, not financial advice, and trading carries real risk, including the risk of loss. Now let's walk through the exact logic step by step. The expert advisor works on closed bars only. On every new bar of the primary time frame, it first checks that enough history exists to compute its indicators, then it does its work once and waits for the next bar. The first thing it builds is the rolling VWAP. It sums the typical price of each bar, that is the high plus the low plus the close divided by 3, weighted by tick volume, across the chosen window. The default window is 34 bars. It calculates this value twice, once for the window ending at the just closed bar, which we'll call VWAP now, and once for the window ending at the bar before that, which we'll call VWAP previous. Comparing those two snapshots is how the strategy detects a clean cross through fair value. Next, it reads two more indicators at the most recent closed bar. The RSI, by default over 14 bars, measures momentum. The average true range, also 14 bars by default, measures how much the market is moving so the stop can adapt to volatility. Here is the long condition. The strategy signals a reclaim from below when the previous close was at or under the previous VWAP, and the current close is above the current VWAP. On its own, that's just a cross. To confirm momentum, RSI must be above its midline, 50 by default, and also below the extreme guard, 72 by default, so the EA is not entering into an already overextended push. When both the reclaim and the momentum filter agree, it places a buy at the ask. The stop sits 1.6 times ATR below entry, and the take profit sits at that stop distance multiplied by the reward factor of 1.8 above entry. The short condition is the exact mirror. The strategy detects price losing VWAP from above when the previous close was at or over the previous VWAP and the current close is below the current VWAP. RSI must be below the midline and above the lower mirror of the guard. When both align, it sells at the bid, places the stop above entry, and sets the take profit the same reward distance below. Crucially, it opens only one position per magic number at a time, so there's no stacking. Every trade has its risk defined before it is ever placed. Let's read the actual MQL5 on screen, just as you'd see it in MetaTrader. At the top are the inputs you can adjust in the strategy tester. The VWAP period defaults to 34, the RSI period to 14, the RsiMidline to 50, and the overbought guard to 72. The ATR period is 14, the stop multiplier is 1.6, the reward multiple is 1.8, and the fixed lot size is 1/10. Just below, the code computes the lower extreme as 100 minus the RSI guard, which gives the mirrored level for short entries. Now look at the long block. The Boolean long reclaim is true when the previous close was at or below the previous VWAP and the current close is above the current VWAP. The Boolean long momentum is true when RSI is above the midline and below the extreme. When both are true, the EA reads the ask, sets the stop 1.6 times ATR below entry, sets the take profit at the stop distance times the reward multiple above entry, and calls trade.buy. The short block is the mirror. Short reclaim checks that the previous close was at or above VWAP and the current close fell below it. Short momentum checks that RSI is below the midline and above the lower extreme. When both agree, the code reads the bid, places the stop above entry, the take profit the reward distance below, and calls trade.sell. Same structure, opposite direction. Let's bring it all together on the chart and walk through both a long and a short trade, candle by candle. The blue line weaving through the candles is the rolling VWAP, the market's fair value over the last 34 bars. Below the price you can see the RSI sub-panel, with its midline at 50, the upper guard at 72, and the lower guard at 28. Look at the opening candles on the left. Price is drifting just under the blue VWAP line. The first and second candles close below fair value, and at the same time the RSI in the lower panel slides under its midline, down into the low 40s. So the market is leaning bearish and trading on the underside of value. Nothing happens yet, because the strategy is patiently waiting for a clean reclaim. Now watch the third candle. It opens near the lows but rallies and closes firmly back above the blue VWAP line. That is the reclaim from below. In the same moment, the RSI pushes back up through its midline into the mid-50s, confirming that momentum has flipped to the upside, and it is comfortably below the 72 guard, so the move is not yet stretched. Both conditions agree, and the buy entry marker prints. The strategy joins the move, expecting continuation away from fair value rather than a snap back to it. From there, follow the next candles upward. The fourth, fifth, and sixth candles build a steady staircase higher, each close sitting further above the rising VWAP, while RSI climbs toward, but stays under, the upper guard. By the seventh candle, price reaches the take profit target, the level set at the ATR stop distance multiplied by the reward factor of 1.8. The long trade closes at its target, and notice the stop, which had been resting a stop multiple below entry, was never threatened during this run. Now the market shifts. After the take profit, price stalls. The eighth candle is still above VWAP, but the ninth candle rolls over and closes below the blue line for the first time since the rally began. That is the mirror image of our long setup, a loss of VWAP from above. At the same time, the RSI breaks back down through its midline into the mid-40s, while remaining above the lower guard at 28, so momentum has flipped bearish without being overextended. Both short conditions line up, and the sell entry marker appears. From the sell entry, trace the move down. The 10th and 11th candles step lower, each close pressing further beneath the falling VWAP, and RSI drifts toward the lower guard. By the 12th candle, price reaches the short take profit target, again measured as the reward multiple of the ATR stop distance. The short trade closes at its target. Across both examples, notice the rhythm. The strategy never guesses. It waits for price to close back through fair value, asks RSI to confirm the same direction without being stretched, and only then commits, with its stop and target defined in advance. This is for educational illustration only, and real markets will not always behave this cleanly. And that wraps up our study of VWAP Reclaim Momentum. We looked at how it builds a rolling VWAP as a measure of fair value, how it waits for price to close back through that line, and how it leans on the RSI to confirm momentum without chasing an overextended move. We also saw how every position carries an ATR-based stop and a reward to risk target defined before entry. Remember, This video is educational content only and not financial advice, a recommendation, or a solicitation. Every strategy carries risk, and losses are a normal part of trading. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like the video, leave a comment with the strategy you'd like us to study next, and subscribe for more MetaTrader 5 analyses. You can learn more at www.algobot.live. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Trade responsibly.